Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on the Five Oncast, your sometimes weekly source for insights into whatever the hell I happen to care about at the time. I am your multi-dimensional co-host, Patrick Downs, the modern Rod Serling, and today I am joined by my favorite cyborg, Justin Michael. I have titled today's episode The Authenticast, and this one's going to be about bringing yourself and your chickens into your sales process. Welcome to the show, Justin. Would you like to give some color to your introduction?
Yes, so as we're talking, I'm drinking a Bang energy drink, which is Radical Skedaddle. It is pink and blue and looks like a unicorn. And I guess it's potent brain and body fuel. So I have super creatine that is ultra CoQ10 with EAA aminos. I have no idea what I'm putting in my body. I feel pretty calm about it. Um, yeah, I will say that I've been chasing some chickens around my yard. I have a battle with Ryan Reiser, the racer. My friend Jake Housden in Canada built this idea called the Sales Development, the SDR League. The idea is to bring like a UFC cage or an esports to SDRs. So I love Rocky, and I've actually held the Academy Award statue for Raging Bull. A friend of mine was the son, Charlie Chardoff, and so I got to hold that in Malibu. But I've always loved the boxing movies and the analogies because I feel like sales, you know, what you naturally, instinctively want to do will not work. It is a counterintuitive form. That's why David Sandler was so successful, right? If you act naturally when you sell software, you're not going to get to that upper 5%, right? So when I think about training for a match where we're both going to do cold calls on a connect and sell dialer and do all these like robocalls, and the best way I can think to train my reflexes is to chase chickens in my yard, and I can't catch them. My daughter can, she's 5 and has these cat-like reflexes. She just, oh, here's the chicken. But I go after the chicken, there's no way. I'm just just stumbling. So I've been running with my husky. I've been training. And it's just like, da da da, get the Rocky theme going. Eye of the tiger, and we're gonna go for it. Rumble in the jungle style. I'm not gonna actually go to Africa. I'm just gonna sit here, quarantined up, and we're just gonna make calls. But I have no idea when it's going down, and I've totally derailed this interview. I'm gonna sip some more Radical Skedaddle.
And that's what super creatine does to you. It gives you that kind of energy. So no more just regular creatine.
Yeah,
I think that's what I took from that.
I have some hay bales that I can lift right after this and calm it down.
I love it, Justin. Well, thanks for coming, man. I'd like to start the interview with 3 personal questions to set the mood and get to know you a little bit better. How's that sound?
Yeah, man. I'm not actually a cyborg and a robot. I'm just a guy that read a ton of books. And I think I met Scott Leese in 2011. He's like, you are, a regurgitator of books. Why don't you go do something? I was like, oh, yeah.
Go do something. Great advice.
Yeah. So what can I answer for you?
So the first one is what is something about yourself that you've accepted, maybe something you like or don't like that you just know is never going to change at this point, that maybe you tried to fix or change at some point, but you're just like, nah, I'm done. This is who I am.
Um, I talk a lot. Like I can just talk and talk and talk and talk. And knowing this, I'm a content machine. I sat down to write my book and I had 20,000 words in the first week just for the outline. I got up to 70,000 words. The publisher said, it's too much content. Normally, the publisher is just like, hey, are you going to finish your book? Right? It's like the scene in Limitless where he's forever writing his book. I'm like just born with too much to say. It's like Ron Burgundy, like I'm up on the table with my pyro jazz flute and I can just play forever. It just never stops. So this is a great strength, but it's a great weakness because I've really fought to discipline myself to be able to actively listen. Like in my personal and professional life, it's been very hard for me to become a good listener, and it's definitely limited me um, from revenue, from success, and it's now becoming a tremendous edge because I can produce content for people at like machine-like levels. It is like GPT-3. It's like plugging in the AI. It's like, hey, can you do 1,500 word blog post? I'm like, sure. 15 minutes later, I'm like, here it is, and that's nuts. And and it just iterates in a fractal way forever. So what I'm encouraging people to do is if you have a weakness, there's a strength in that weakness.
I love
So
it.
that's just one.
That's it's like there's a couple. I think we all have a couple, but I love it, man. Yeah, you got to use it as a weapon. I think that's what's unique about you. I like that. I like when you come on 5 on Friday and you go off for like 2 minutes. It changes the whole tone in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually really humble. There's a lot more I could have done. I've always had the heart of a consultant. I didn't stay at a lot of companies a lot. It's a critique I get. Spent a year here, 2 years there. Sometimes work for multiple companies, consult multiple projects. I've always just been like a very similar to like a big cat on the Serengeti. Like I don't run often, but when I run, I go in for the kill. I can do 65 miles an hour. It's like a cheetah. They sleep all day, and occasionally they run faster than anything you've ever seen. It's that big cat mentality, then they eat and then they sleep again. So I very much have the heart of the consultant. I went back and looked at it. I mean, it's random. Like, the original co-founder who invented Value Click, which got Commission Junction, and he comes out of the caves of Spain. He retired and left the country. He comes back into America. He finds me. He's like, wow, you can wear 25 startup hats. Let's go do some stuff. So I'll work on that project for a while. So I worked for a ton of companies, and I didn't go and you know build Acme Corp to 100 million, or exit 7 companies. I think that's all awesome. All I did usually is sit and crack the problem, the top funnel. I sat there and I would be like, we can't get meetings, and I would crack the meetings. And so I focused my whole consultancy on that problem. It's like, are you sitting somewhere and you can't get meetings with your emails? I'll fix that for you. Are you sitting somewhere and you have to use your phone to get meetings? I'll fix it for you. Because if you get meetings during the pandemic, I trust you to figure out the rest. If you can start to suddenly open up a dramatic amount of conversations and opportunities and appointments and meetings, there's going to be people on your team, your co-founders, your account executives, those grizzled veterans carrying the bag for 20 years. So I just did this at company after company. I used to joke because I worked for Sean Parker, and we had 75 engineers in a bullpen right outside the door. I called it Gen Pop, because I'd be in this little office, and I'd do like a corporate deal, and I'd sell a deal for like $300,000, and we sketch it all out, wireframe it all, and I walk out and be like, okay, we need to build this. It was very much like, okay, we sold the plane. Okay, you want to build this plane? And we had enough engineering firepower that we could literally custom build. That's how I started in SaaS. It was like a totally custom engineering play, where we would go into the corporation and social media and come up with an idea, and then you have 75 engineers. Pretty fun. So what I mean by this is I've opened meetings for companies that had a product, didn't have a product, product worked, product didn't work, pivoting product, and I've never once not cracked the top funnel. Right. And so that's what I'm trying to teach people. I'm not, people come to me, they're like, first of all, like, hey, Justin, your stuff's illegal. You can't send a million emails. It's unethical. I'm like, well, if you go back and look at the million emails I sent 50 per day. It's for 100 different clients. I'm actually sending lower volume. That's just over time. Other things like, well, you're kind of a fraud, right? Because how much sales have you actually done, right? And I'm like, I'm not here to tell you that I'm the President's Club award winner, that I'm the best seller ever. I'm here to hack and growth hack. And hey, look at that. That's interesting. It's like a person that makes the fly fishing rod and the lure and bait tester. I'm like this R&D thing that it's like, you're stuck. Have you tried like sending this image or this kind of GIF, or how about this thing that Stu Heineke did where you send a shoe that's in the shape of a cake, right? It's totally like a Willy Wonka, the scene in the factory where he's like, oh, this is the everlasting gobstopper, right? I'm trying to figure out is a way for you to break through by reading all the books, testing all the techniques, and helping you be like 1 to 5% better. I always try to clarify this because there's other thought leaders that are going out with a very different message about like, look at all that I've accomplished, and that's great, right? And I'm just trying to empower the rep. If I can empower the rep, then I can help the leaders of the teams, and that's what my consultancy has been about. I got way off course.
No, I think this might be a good place to go into the Discord, actually. You're kind of the Willy Wonka of the salesborgs factory. I'd like to get a little bit more background to the audience about the Discord, and specifically the cold calls that you do almost daily now.
Yeah, so I literally have been on a telephone for 20,000 hours. I've sent from every sequencer you can imagine, from PersistIQ to Apollo to SalesLoft to Outreach to Reply.io to Groove.co to Yesware to ToutOut. I mean, who can rattle like that? Because I've used them all. Every time I say that, it's a different company, a different era. I've been selling software as a service for 13 years. And when you sell SaaS, you have to go interrupt strangers, and you're in a commoditized market. You're not going to get in front of someone who's like, I don't get that tech. You're going to look like their internal tech. So it's very much, it's like a competitive rap battle, right? You're trying to get in there, and they already have, I'm selling Gainsight. Oh, they already have Tatango. I'm selling Swerve push notifications. Oh, we already have Salesforce. You're always going into a place where they have it already. And so it's very hard, and you have to be very good at differentiating. What I decided to do was, I'm like, I'm going to create a mastermind group. So I was advising Rev Genius, which is super cool. It's grown to 6,000, and it's in Slack. What I wanted to do was have like a practical, almost like a dojo. This is kind of funny with the whole Cobra Kai, but like people come in, they take my methods and they come in, and it's not like a dojo where you can only use my methods. It's like, we're going to have this forum. We use this thing called a Discord server. It's a gaming server. One server can hold 550,000 people. It has like a heavy load on your computer because you have like Slack channels that are interactive and all these multicolored emoji stuff, and then voice channels where you can go in and talk, and then everybody can voice each other and video each other. If you imagine Slack plus Zoom plus gamification, and then I have robots running in it. So as you're like talking, interacting, it's like level 5. Like it's like really this crazy thing. And what I do is like, so I amassed like 200 people on Patreon. What's Patreon? Patreon's a place like for Talib Kweli and like artists to have their fans in this, new normal support them. And there's a couple B2B people up there. Kevin Dorsey has something like 500. I think Scott Leese has a couple hundred in there. Gerhardt, Dave Gerhardt, former CMO of Drift's up there. He's got 1,500. And 1,500 at $10 a month, you're like, wow, that's a lot of passive income. Well, for me, I believe in Richard Stallman and, you know, Torvalds and Linux and open source and Radiohead. I truly believe that if I just go on Reddit and just put everything that I could possibly show you to set a meeting for free, and I put it up there, and the Redditors are like, what's the catch? Like, I do have a course you can buy, like Josh Braun. I have something called Superhuman Sales, which you can get on Kajabi. I have a link. But I actually charge $1 now. I had $10. And all that only is just a gate to make sure you're serious. I want people that are obsessed about cracking cold email and cold calls. They go into the server, and at 4 o'clock every day, I'm sponsored by Connect and Sell, like a race car driver. I go in and I call human verified data. I have a center in Medellin where I advise called cloudtask.com, and they pre-call the numbers in Seamless. Wouldn't that be luxurious? So I have all working phone numbers, hundreds of VP of sales, perfect cell phones. I put it into Connect and Sell. It gets dialed, 3 to 10 dials. I connect every 2 minutes with my first degree connections. And then people watch me do it over a video link. And they listen to the prospect, they listen to me. And this doesn't happen anywhere else. I think Ryan Reisert's doing something similar with a Twitch channel, and he's doing Discord. But we're bringing the most modern and sophisticated community and interaction mechanisms to B2B sales. Why is it called salesborgs? I wanted to be called Avengers, but Disney owns all this stuff. You can't just be Tony Stark. Like, you can reference it a few times. So I had Cyborg and Seller. Tony Hughes, my co-author, came up with it because I was like the cyborg case study in combo prospecting. He's been mentoring me for 8 years. He kind of discovered me. He was looking around to see who was like doing these modern methods, and I worked with him to grow his followers to 300,000. So we call it salesborg. But what we inadvertently tripped is the Trekkie zeitgeist, because there was these Borgs. It was like the Borg is this alien civilization that is like a beehive mind, and they just assimilate. They come in and they're all one brain, and they just come in and they're evil, and they're taking over all the planets and the universe. And what I love about it is it's like this dark, weird, Trekkie, nerdy thing, but we're flipping that to say that we're going to create this revolution of more concise content, more aligned content. The big things for me have been neuroscience, the science of selling by David Hoffield, studying Cialdini, understanding persuasion. And I was talking to this earlier on the call. If you actually look at all the communication mediums that are being funded and power used, right? The outrageous user levels of TikTok. What is it? Hyper short, video and visual. Hyper short video and visual. We see the clues in Snap, TikTok, Facebook, Messenger, Instagram, everything Zuckerberg's acquiring. WhatsApp is a huge sign. If you take the last 200 things you sent to someone important you care about that you would trust with your credit card, you would trust with your life, not a single 3-paragraph email there. And there's not a lot of research you're doing. It's very short, concise, and often visual. What do you send to your friends and family? You're having a great time. You snap a picture of the sunset, you send it. You know, I got this big trampoline right here. I'm gonna take a picture of it, send it to my brother. Isn't this cool? When I was growing up. You know, I'm not gonna send 3 paragraphs about explaining the trampoline with its value props. So the way we communicate to everybody we trust is the way people buy and the way people think emotionally, and visuals unlock 60,000 words. So my great innovation, like the tombstone level, is email. The whole industry of email is templates and writing emails, but text is not email. Email is visual. It unlocks 60,000 times the speed. So all of my methods for email are visually released, and then phone is this crazy other beast where you have fight or flight. You're talking to someone, and all they're trying to do on a deep, instinctive level is go, do I trust them? Fight or flight. And so phone is not about your script and your rebuttals and handling brush offs. It's actually about the tonality. And that's why the power pose with Amy Cuddy and like how you feel and your internal. Um, so I'm kind of just blasting off here about what salesborgs is. You know, there's 270 people. It jumped by 50 people. I'm going to grow it to 1,000. And it is all employed. Like I want you guys to help each other, you guys and gals. I'm going to release this book called Tech Powered Sales on HarperCollins, June of 2021. And the goal is to have thousands of people grinding on these methods. And then if they buy the book or pre-order it, they get access to the mastermind group. But it's not a static place where people are link dumping. It's a place, if you go in there, where people are tearing down. There are 6.8 million sellers, and there's 600,000 people who are tasked with opening as the new closing. And when you sit there all day and you email 50 times and nothing happens to you, come into the salesborgs. You know, come in and put in your subject line and ask Patrick Downs, what would you do? If you've hit zeros and you can't set, come in and share your sequence. 20 people like Piranha will come in and be like, oh, your call to action's wrong. Well, why don't you try this? It's the writer's block. We get stuck in this job. It's such a grinder that you can track the pixels. Hey, everybody's opening it, but no one's clicking it. And it's so demoralizing. You're at this place where you're just banging the phone, doing the emails, and you can't get the results. You can try my method, but it's better to say, here are 250 people, and here are 5 people that care who can give you new ideas. That's what I do. I drop my messaging in here, and then I just get this wide variety of linguistical, like, I use a lot of words that don't exist. But basically, people pepper me with what they would do. And everyone has an opinion. You know what I like to do? I like to take everyone's opinion, put it back into my sequencer, and run it. How would you make this Venn diagram? What visuals would you share? Hey, here's my website. What would you say? What would make you buy this? This is like, you know, revolutionary. No one's in a silo anymore. Like I would love to have the full 500,000 people in this thing, just grinding on ways to do positive outreach. And the whole templatization of communication won't work either. So I have this whole thing called heuristics where I'm looking at, you know, what does this sentence mean? This is a pattern interrupt. This is a humor statement. This is gratitude. I'm trying to pull a next level to the templates so that people can learn how to communicate, learn how to write, understand why certain things are setting. If they're hyper short, open rates are 80% because no one in their right mind would send a 1-sentence email. But then if there's no right brain trigger or emotion or pain and fear, why would they set? Because actually nobody cares about the logic. They care about the pain, the fear, the story. They want to be a hero. There's political leanings, and then they justify what they do with the logical side of their mind. And so the majority of emails, 3 paragraphs long, overly researched and creepy, all focused on a logical outcome and not emotionally resonant. Some of the systems in the market have very good emotional resonance. That's good, and that's why they somewhat work, but it takes 13 seconds to process it. So I always say, take those systems, learn them, buy them, I do, and then atomize them, chunk them down, compact them into what I call the JMM spheres. So it's more like a very short form message, under 250 words, 2 sentences. Like people hire me for really nice amounts, and then I send them, here's your sequence. It's the word thoughts. And they're like, what? I just paid $500 for you to say thoughts? I was like, did it set meetings? Yeah.
Yeah, people measure value like how much of it is there a lot of the times. Like how much did
Yeah.
you do? It's not
This
actually the
email's
results.
awesome.
Yeah.
This is amazing email. Look at this. Look how much research. This person must have put like 5 hours of research. If I'm the sales manager, I'm going 5 hours of research. I mean, uh, could we send 150 emails in that same time? You could have made 30 cold calls. You could have 3 live conversations. If you're on Connect and Sell, I prove this every day. I sit and Connect and Sell, and in 45 minutes, I do 200 dials. And I've done 2 8-hour days. I've done 16 hours of grinding in 45 minutes. What's the result? After 30 days, so 20 hours on the phone for Cloud Task, I generated 800,000 in pipeline at 45 minutes to 60 minutes a day. And you've been on these sessions, and it's just like, beep, you're talking to CRO. You're talking
Yeah,
to
I
the
mean,
people. Yeah.
I'd like to touch on that. Your style it really took me off guard at first. I actually did not expect you to communicate the way you did. I thought you were gonna go into like a different self almost, but you're still 100% just Justin, like the same person that's talking here. A lot of it's humor, a lot of it's authenticity. How did you get there? Like, was that always how you've interacted on the phone, or is that something you developed?
This is the greatest question. Mike Weinberg is a huge fan of just like sell like you talk, no movie phone voice. No, now I'm selling. Hey, CloudTask has offshore reps. They get 6% increase. Like people go into these weird Wolf of Wall Street type, it's hyper persuasive. Hey, John, how's your day? It's Ned Ryerson, right? When Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, it's Ned Ryerson, and he's got the insurance. That, like, honest to God, that one so encapsulates why you're just like, stop, no more sales. Be yourself. When you write emails, read them out loud. Read them to someone you care about. Does it sound like you? It's so funny. People are like, how do you always know what to redo? I mean, they say this about Bikram, as controversial as he is. You see in the documentary, goes, he can look at the human body and he knows what's wrong with it. And he knows what kind of yoga is going to fix it, right? I look at an email and I viscerally just see, after literally practicing all the systems and sending millions of emails over years for dozens and dozens of companies, I automatically just see what's wrong with it, or a few crossroads of things you could do to change it. The first thing I do is I just read it, and it doesn't sound like English, right? Now, right now we're in this negative label phase, which is a lot of fun. Would it be terrible if, can you imagine, I just go down to the taco stand over here and I say, would it be ludicrous if I asked for a, you know, uh, huevos rancheros? Would it be, a crime against humanity if I ordered a taco? I mean, this is not how we communicate. So I don't do a lot of that stuff. It's gimmicky for me. I love that Chris Voss is like, have you given up on driving revenue? No, he's the CRO. She's a CRO. Like, no, she hasn't. I'm not going to ask you. That's offensive. Like, I wouldn't want that question. I might once, it might fork me subconsciously, but I don't do a lot of gimmicks. Like when I'm on the phone, it's really radically transparent. Hey, I'm an advisor. Yeah, this is a cold call. Um, oh, you're on a boat. I'm making a cold call in my backyard. Yeah, how do I get on the boat? Yeah, I mean, oh, Amir. I'm doing some dials for my friend who's the CEO of this company in Medellin. Should we help you with SDRs? It's just authentic. It's calm. I'm not pushy. I'm not persuading you. Um, if I'm cool and calm and collective and talking to you, well, that's how somebody talks to me when I talk to my CPA or I talk to my accountant. Can you imagine? Oh, right. We need to do your W-2. Well, hey, let's get a W-9 form. Or people, why? The people we trust are calm and they're trying to help you. And and it's like the Todd Capone thing, the 4.2. Make yourself, you remember like all 3D technology? Like you got the like Jar Jar Binks Star Wars comes out and it's all too perfect. And then you have the new ones with like Rey and like the Force Awakens. At the CGI, you've got like the Avatar CGI, but the new CGI has artifacts. It's smudged and dirty and corroded and it looks sick. It looks real because the real world is not Toy Story. It's the same thing with selling, right? It's the 4.2, not the 5, right? They ask you like, what's the downside? I might say, hey, it's really hard to nail offshore sales. That's true. Who's going to say it? Like, I will literally say vulnerable things. I'll point out flaws in myself. I'll self-deprecate. I'll make fun of myself. I'll make mistakes. I'll stutter. I'll be imperfect. because all of this produces trust. It's actually not having that perfectly pressed button down shirt and like, okay, when you shake their hand, turn over your hand so you have the power, and then you just push the pen, and then you get, it's like, no, no, you can't fool. The entire prospect base is intelligence, and they love to buy, they can't be sold anymore. Selling's gone. Persuasion is gone. You have to just kind of lay it out matter of fact and start to build trust through humor, self-deprecation, and showing the flaws. This is what I found. So that's like my style of authenticity. Like it's just me. Like no polish. I went into this huge meeting at AOL. This guy reported right to Tim Armstrong at Verizon AOL. I came in and I spilled the coffee. I flipped over a coffee maker. It spilled all over my shoe. I had paper towels. I was cleaning it up. I had coffee on my shirt. I won the bid because I was human.
You unmuted.
Oh yeah, I didn't. Someone's trying to. My neighbor's like redoing their entire house and doing home auto work. So
Background noise isn't that bad. It's good shit. I love it, man. My favorite thing though is how you handle objections, because most people kind of get caught up on that, and you tend to just stand your ground, which I think is interesting. You'll use humor, but oftentimes if they're like, "How'd you get your number?" It's like, like same way that your sales reps get their number, or something of that nature. I'm prospecting for business. I've been doing it, for 15 years, like just like your team probably does, and that tends to really work. And they just go, "What is this about?" It's the next question. How did you get there where you felt so comfortable just in what you were doing and just being yourself again, even when people are trying to like smack you down or they're rude?
yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, pattern interrupts are really big. Someone will come to me and say, "I'm not interested." What would interest you? This isn't relevant for me. We don't want this. Why? What would you want? We're killing it internally with our solution. Tell me more. Teach me. Um, no, not interested. Okay, how could I pitch you better? Can you not call me back? What would make you want to call me back? Like I do these weird things at the end of cold calls, and once in a blue moon, it shifts. Like I literally had this. They're like, "I'm not interested. Don't call me again." I'm like, "Oh, who called you?" Oh, you're not a robocaller? Oh yeah, I want to talk to you. It's all good. And they didn't know. There's just like an inherent brush off. Jeb Blunt talks about this. There's like a cornered animal thing. The minute there's a phone number or somebody on the phone, it's like an alien agent, right? And I've always talked about the face sucking alien from Alien 1 or Alien 2, the one that like get trapped in the room and like the little aliens, like you have to let people, hey, you know what? Let's set up a meeting as a information session, not a sale. Let's talk about how you're not going to buy Cloud Task, but let's just have like a business development conversation where we brainstorm ways to generate new business. And we'll tell you about what we're doing with chatbots, some of the stacks we're using like FrontSpin. Here's how we're doing human verified data. Here's a channel model that we're doing with Partner Stack. Isn't this interesting? You could use this for your business. Let's take 9 minutes, and then we'll just give you back the other 20. Why don't you talk? You want to talk to the CEO of the company? How often do you talk to CEOs? Do you talk a lot of account executives? Why don't you talk to the CEO? And if worst case scenario, he'll introduce you to his brother who has an e-commerce company, and you can just do a deal. How about that? It's radical. You're not shoving product at them. You're not getting your SAL. You're not getting your KPI. You're adding value. You're saying like basically, if you're not interested, is there something else that can help? Who are you hiring right now? What kind of software are you trying to buy? How is there any way I can help you? These are the radical things I try to do. I say, there's a person here as a stranger who's in a position I understand. I've been a VP of sales. How can I help them? And then I just focus on that. And the more they brush me off and the more they're like seeing that I'm bad or not going to help them, the more I just keep disarming them with like, that's totally fine. You don't have to buy from me. Keep the internal solution. So a lot of my methods are based on that, agreeing with them, validating them, allowing them to feel safe in their decisions. The big problem with sales today is you call someone on the phone and try to convince them why they're wrong. And every human's going to recoil. I built the route, ruin, multiply framework because the whole middle step, and Cardone talks about this, is agreeing. What's the most radical thing you can do when you call a person who has the competitive product? Great. Yeah, they're great. That's my competitor. How is it for you? Oh, you use Microsoft Dynamics? Tell me more about it. How do you like the CRM? That's a great CRM. I'm calling from Salesforce, right? I'm going to wait and let them say, here's why I bought it. Here's how I onboarded. Here's how I use it. And all the reasons why they're right in their worldview, they start calming down. They start trusting me. Oh, he's safe. He's not knocking me or immediately diving in. Spin selling was the same. The problem now with all the scripts is it's like this. Hey, John, the reason for my call. You're going boom, right into differentiation. And from the top of every phone script that I've seen, all you're doing is you're recoiling the prospect and they have to now justify their worldview. You're making them wrong. Before you talk about how your product is differentiated and better, you have to find out why they made the decision.
It's so
Right?
weird. Earlier, I was talking to somebody that was talking about improving their close rates, and they said they had a 45% close rate. And my first response is, wow, that's really high. How did you guys get there? That's amazing. And then he started justifying why it wasn't that good and why it's, oh, yeah, this is just on inbound leads, this and that. So I just played into like, that's awesome because it is. And having that conversation changed the entire dynamic.
Yeah, people, they want to be validated for their decisions before they're challenged. And this was actually the piece that the Challenger sale missed, in my opinion. You watch like the first Gordon Ramsay shows where he goes into these like little restaurants all over England and he flies on his helicopter and it says like sassy, which is pretty cool. And he goes and he's like, you've got rats in the basement and your salad's frozen, you know, and he's so angry and he's just scaring them and they're, you know, it's the Challenger. We're gonna drown him rationally and we're gonna reframe and all this stuff. But he never once goes, wow, this restaurant's been in your family for 20 years. Hey, you've stuck at it. You've built all this. Like, congrats on so far. Tell me everything about how you built it all and listen to the story and make them right and validate them first. Because then that opens up the receptiveness to them to want to change. And that the ruin phase of my method is the human factor. Like, you know, someone said, Justin, you want to make more money? Yes. Do you want to be fitter? Yes. Do you want to be happier? Yes. Do you want to be more fulfilled? Yes. Do you want to have more balance? I mean, I'm never going to say no. I want to improve. Human nature is a constant improvement. It's like New York City, improving nonstop, right? The whole city's under construction 24 hours a day forever, like Blade Runner. Like if you move there, you're going to be in a construction zone for the rest of your life. And so we always joke improving nonstop. But I really believe that the ruin phase is you call a prospect, you agree with them for who they are and the decisions they've made and their organizational dysfunction. You say, you know, tell me what you use. I use Acme Corp for my analytics. Okay, why? Well, you know, it was kind of grandfathered in. Honestly, we got a great deal. Interesting. How are you deploying it? And look at that delayed gratification. Tell me more about you, more about you, more about your decisions, validating more about you. The level of trust, the speed to trust, right? It's the whole pendulum effect, like reverse selling with Sandler. Then they turn the way, wait, where are you from? Oh, you have analytics too? Because if I just called them up and was like, oh, I'm seeing you're using the competitor analytics, they're awful, their customer service is bad, we are so much faster. And our clients, you know, love it. They just tune out. They're like, whoa, 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 you're making me wrong. And then all they do is they unleash this incredible defensiveness and justification. And we would never use that. We're not interested. You know, so all the brush off is because the seller fears that if they agree with a prospect, oh my gosh, I agree, they're going to stay. If I don't show them that I want to argue and debate, they're not going to look at the new product. And it's the exact opposite, you know? So that's what's radical. And then I even take it a step further. So first I try to find out where you're going, and then I agree with you, and then find out what's going on. They like naturally start to service improvement and want to know more about a different way. And then the third step, which is great, is multiply, which is if you can, don't rip out what they have. So if they already have an intranet that they've had for 15 years, they're not going to rip it out. And you have like this new cool add-on, sell into it. If they have a legacy marketing cloud, if they have Salesforce, they're not taking out Salesforce. So figure out some way that your product can integrate with Salesforce and they can buy it also, right? The average enterprise has 91 solutions in the stack. So because I sold in MarTech and AdTech so much, it was always like, this product makes your big, you know, Death Star stack better, right? Our cutting edge SaaS recruitment piece, plug it into the legacy applicant tracking system. Great, keep that, we integrate. And most SaaS have the integrative style. Now people use my method and they have to do rip and replace. They're in financial services or IT, you know, managed service provider. And there's certain things that for security reasons, it has to be ripped. And so you can think of the multiply step as this is when you pitch. So first, I'm trying to figure out who makes the decisions and your power, and let you talk about your power and to get your chest puffed up. And then I'm validating your power and your decisions, and then waiting for you to invite me across the threshold. This is my whole vampire theory. Like, I guess legend has it that a vampire cannot enter the threshold. I don't know if you have to like garlic and a crossing, but in the legend, the beauty is you have to invite them in. And so for me, I'm sitting on a call and I'm just waiting, waiting. Tell me about you. Tell me about you. Spin, situation, like all I'm doing is listening actively, which I'm bad at, because I'm waiting for that moment where you go, wait, Justin, why are you calling? Wait, what's your product? And that's when I'm in. The vampire's ready. You know, I'm gonna Nosferatu. I'm like, come across the threshold, take a bite. Here's my pitch. I don't want to pitch you until you want my pitch. This is like, maybe it's somewhere. I don't, is that in some book? I don't know. I figured this out. And the results, like my buddy Reese down in Australia, you know, he was doing all digital sequences. And then he calls me, he's like, yeah, yesterday I used Route Rue and Multiply. I had 4 chief risk officers in publicly traded companies take meetings. Where he calls them and says, who's in charge of risk and compliance? And they go, I am. Tell me more. Boom. You start talking about all the things they can control, all the ways they already do it, all the ways they're right. And then lo and behold, they're like, well, okay, Reese, well, maybe we should talk about this, you know? It's weird. And that's why it's like a Jedi mind trick. It's literally like, these are not the droids you're looking for. That's scene. That's the scene. Because when I first SaaS job, I call 100 people not interested. We already do it. We already do it. We already do it. And I literally had to be like, these are not the droids you're looking for. I need to find some way to get them to shift. So I started studying Dale Carnegie, and it says, oh, the most beautiful sound is their name. Well, they love their name and they love to talk about themselves. And then I realized this thing. I was like, wow, like, okay, I can vote, but can I really change? Like, can I change the paving of the road in front of my house? Not really. Can I change the government? Can I change Margaret Mead, like a small band, like a ragtime band, like Captain EO? Like, probably could change. I could crusade and change, but there's not a lot of stuff that I actually have power over. But my job, that's a fief to my control. Oh, I control the budget on which, you know, e-sign we're going to buy. That is my decision, and I get to do it. Like, you know, people have this tiny little sphere of influence and control, and no one really asks them about what they control. What are you in charge of? What are you allowed to buy? And that's, you know, the old school is you call enough people and you get a lot of people. It's like, well, you know, who else should be in the decision? Oh, I'm the buyer. I downloaded the white paper. No, people downloading the white paper are not the buyer. But if you start to call on an ABM model, the VPs, VP level, CXO level, the CRO, that's another thing about cold calls. I call really high. Okay, you're the president. You're you're the GM of sales. You're the CMO. I know that you control a budget. And then I call the CMO and I go, who's in charge of your, you know, database marketing? Of course, she says, I am. And then really, I'm really asking her to tell me all the ways she controls her marketing budget and all the decisions that she's had to make or organizationally been forced to make, and the trauma and the baggage. Like, yeah, like I've got that drip marketing system. You know, I love Pardot. I'm on that because, you know, I inherited that. Or, you know, I'm on Marketo, but I really want to try Pardot, but I can't because I got, you know, 3 years. I sound like Vince Vaughn now. You know, it's like his little anecdotes, right? This is what you're doing. You're actually the power base, new power base selling, the whole Jim Holden. You're saying, tell me about your power. You know, it's funny. My daughter goes, have you seen my power? But that's what it is. It's a power transfer formula where you call them up. You don't talk about yourself and the reason you're calling. You call them and say, tell me about your power. Let's make you right. What are you doing? And let's validate what you've done and how you built this. And then we just wait for that magic moment. And I talk about this in a whole deal with polarity. You're pushing and you're pushing and you're checking in and you're following up and you're sending your deck and you're sending your spreadsheet and everything. The minute you're going to close the sale is when it shifts and they go, hey, we've got to get the deal done. Can you send me your deck? Hey, what's your pricing? You know that moment in an enterprise sale or any sale where suddenly you're not pushing on the rope, they're pushing to close it for you. It's spun around and they're driving it home, right? That's like fishing. They've hit the line and they're pulling. You start letting the line out. They pull some more, you're reeling, they're pulling. Like, catch a fish. It's totally what happens in a deal. I'm droning on and on, right? Like I said, that's the flaw in the strength.
That's how you book meetings. I'm
true.
sold. Well, that was awesome, Justin. I appreciate you coming on. I feel like you get a lot of your method out, and what I was most interested in was the cold call. So it was good to hear some mindset from that, because usually it's just hearing you do it, and sometimes I'm like, what is he doing? I don't even understand
That's
what's
what I'm
happening.
trying to do. I'm trying to call up a person who's frazzled and scared and get them to tell me what they're thinking strategically, where they're in control, and trying to validate them and agree with them. And by helping, it's Aikido. The more and more power I give them, and the more and more strength and weight and gravity, then the bigger they are, the harder they fall. By making them really powerful, I can shift their weight, and then boom, they fall onto the mat. You see that little Aikido gal who's like, 100 pounds, and she's throwing this 250-pound man just throwing. Because if you puff them up, it's like that sword of Damocles, right? You've built them up so much that the minute they even shift slightly, they're going to totally shift into your corner. People like sellers don't want to give them the power. They don't want to give their competitor the power. They don't want to agree, right? And
Just gotta
that's where
let go.
that's where Cardone was right. And Obama talked about this, like social Aikido or social Tai Chi. And Sandler gets this. Sandler's just like the whole way. Every time you want to do something, do the opposite, right? You call the customer, they talk first. Call the customer rather than you talking about ask them a question, right? Okay, now they're going to tell you what they do. You want to argue? Agree. You want to pitch your product? Don't pitch. Listen. You want to talk? Listen. You just keep doing the opposite, and they're just gonna, it's baffling. Pattern interrupts are subconscious. They don't know why it's happening, and it's really powerful. So, yeah, we've reached the top of the episode, and I think my neighbor is now, banging and hammering and sawing. And the best was like some kind of home auto. I felt like the lug nuts were being taken off. They're basically redoing their whole house.
This is awesome, Justin. What is the best way for people to connect with you right now?
Just go to Justin Michael, ping me about the dollar thing, the salesborgs. It is an interactive mastermind group. There's never been anything like it on the planet. If you write me an essay or an email, I'll give it to you for free even. The dollar is just to keep the trolls out. And ping me, Justin Michael, on LinkedIn or on Twitter. I'm on Reddit. I think I have a salesborgs Instagram now. Just hit me on any of these channels and I'll hook you up with a free guide. You can check it out. If you like the method, come into the group. It's $1 and all the values of the people in there. People like Patrick Downs. And you're going to be amazed at the results, but the caliber of the conversation, the kind of people you meet in there can change your life.
Hell yeah. That's a great place to end. Thank you for joining me, Justin. Please connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube. We're on Instagram now. Please subscribe to this podcast. 80% of the people that listen to it are not subscribed, so I'd appreciate that very much. You're beautiful just the way you are. Don't ever change. Catch you next time.